First, let's look at some of Brant's kit. His Forte bar gains something called Bravo, which when full allows him to cast his Anchor skill. Bravo is gained from using skills or basic attacks, and aerial basic attacks give the most. His Liberation will double the amount of Bravo he gets for 12 seconds, and it will also give him an attack buff. Else, his regular skill is split into two parts depending on if he is in the air or not. If he is airborne, his skill becomes a plunge attack, but if he is on the ground, it launches him into the air. In QUICKSWAP teams, Brant's main role is going to be an aerial pivot character, with constant swapbacks to fill his Bravo as fast as possible. A pivot character is essentially a character that is constantly swapped to and from in this order. The most used QUICKSWAP abilities are going to be his aerial basic attacks, as his air attacks gain more Bravo than his ground moves, with each air attack in his sequence gaining more than the previous. You are able to swap out of every basic attack while maintaining his airborne status, however your combo will reset every time you swap. For example, if you swap at combo number 2 and swap back, Brant will start back at basic attack 1. However, there are some cases where you can preserve his combo sequence if you use the intro skill of another character, which decreases the cooldown of his swap without continuing his animation. This allows for you to swap back in time to continue his basic attack chain. In terms of swap timings, he will stay in the air longer if he is farther from the target. However, if you are intentionally trying to keep him at a distance, you have to be aware that being too far will cause him to drop to the ground. You usually want to do 1 to 2 basic attacks in the air before swapping out, as this way Brant will gain enough Bravo to fill his Forte without neglecting other characters. His second most used QUICKSWAP ability is his Forte or his Anchor skill, which is very easy to use and you can swap directly after casting it. The biggest problem about Brant QUICKSWAP isn't necessarily the timings on his abilities, but his team compositions. As Brant is basically stuck in the air, it can make some teams harder to pull off if they have no airborne abilities. Characters that complement Brant fall into a few categories. 1. They are just good at being in the air, meaning they remain almost unaffected by being airborne, or 2. They are used to stall. Stalling allows Brant to become airborne without needing to cast his skill or jumping. For example, if Brant plunges, but somebody is still in the air, the next swap back to Brant will cause him to spawn in the air. Or, if an attack launches a character into the air, Brant will also spawn in the air. In short, these stall characters have abilities that cause them to be airborne, or abilities that allow them to stay in the air. Characters like Xiangliao, Carlotta, and Calcharo, who are mainly ground units, also work because they have long animations that allow them to stay on the ground, and so they don't despawn. For Xiangliao, his Liberation skill allows him to stay grounded and keep a combo, as well as his basic attack combo. For Carlotta, she can cast her Liberation in the air and continuously swap with Brant while staying grounded. Most of these characters aren't going to be swapped often since they usually need to do a plunge attack. However, it's still possible to use them without casting plunge attacks if you swap while Brant is near the floor. For example, if we look at Havoc Rover, who is pretty bad at QUICKSWAP, swapping to Rover spawns her on the ground because Brant is close enough to the ground. While it's possible for this to occur in all of his aerial attacks, it will not always work because Brant often isn't close enough to the floor to swap. If you plan on using a character that doesn't work too well in the air, and you want to do an advanced QUICKSWAP playstyle, it's recommended to have at least one of these characters as your third team member. During his liberation skill, swapping while he does this animation will cause Brant to spawn in the air. I also accidentally messed up the swap here, so Brant ended up staying on the ground, but it's possible to have him stay airborne.